And welcome back, students. Let's go ahead and get started with our next lesson as we talk about plagiarism and citation. So getting started, plagiarism is the wrongful appropriation or publication of another author's work passed off as one's own original work. It is considered both to be academic dishonesty and a breach of journalistic ethics. Now, while it is technically not a crime to commit plagiarism, it does sometimes fall into constituting as copyright infringement because you are taking someone else's work, let alone being a severe ethical offense. Often the punishment for the plagiarism doesn't actually come from the law, though. Instead, it will come from institutions such as colleges or universities, or in your case, the high school setting, which may award appropriate sanctions or punishments depending upon the offense. So let's just quickly discuss within academia the different pieces of there, because obviously that is the one that's most relevant to us in our setting. So plagiarism by students, professors, or researchers is, of course, considered to be academic dishonesty. Offenders can be subject to academic censure up to and including expulsion. When I say up to, it could be something like you fail the assignment, you fail the term, you could fail completely, and then you could just expel you. It really just does depend upon the severity, recurring of the offense, etc. Now, some institutions use plagiarism detection software, such as Turnitin.com, to uncover potential plagiarism and to deter students from plagiarizing. Some universities address the issue of academic integrity by providing students with thorough orientations, required writing courses, and clearly articulated honor codes. This is all to kind of help outline their criteria for academic honesty, because they don't want to have to drag you through the ringer because you were plagiarizing. Now, an interesting thing is that despite almost universal understanding that plagiarism is wrong, almost everyone says I shouldn't plagiarize, every year students are brought before a disciplinary board regarding misused sources. Whether the disciplinary board is at a college level or you could just be, with your teacher because you decided just to, forgot to put your sources on there. Now, there is an extreme form of plagiarizing, and this is one that is pretty rampant, actually, in some of the higher levels too, is something known as contract cheating. Is pretty much where a student pays someone else to do their work for them, and this can take different forms, such as, mills, or you could even just be a friend. Pretty much, as long as if someone else does your work for you, then they consider that to be plagiarism. All right, it's contract cheating. You don't want to do that. If it's your work, you are the one that needs to do it. Now, some common forms of plagiarism. One of the first, of course, is pretty obvious: submitting someone else's work as your own. Right? In other words, you literally take someone else's work, you write your name on it, you turn it in. Clearly, that's cheating. That's plagiarism. Also, taking passages from your own work without adding citations. So if you reference something else, let's say you publish something, and you want to reference it, well, you still need to source that document. Also, rewriting someone else's work without adding properly cited sources is a big thing too, because if you go and paraphrase something, paraphrasing can help you put something into your own words. But if it's not your original idea, if it came from someplace else, you still need to cite that source. Using quotations but not citing the source. You can, if you just throw quotes around something and say I cited something that doesn't count, you need to put quotes around it, and depending upon your citation form, most common thing is at the end of your sentence you'll put parentheses with the in-text citation inside of it. Interweaving various sources together in the work without citing, if you try to just say, well, I'm going to pull from like 5 different sources and mix and match stuff, so it's not all from the same thing, it's still technically going to be plagiarism because you're not citing anything. Citing some but not all the passages should be cited. So let's say you are pulling from, let's say, a paragraph of text, and let's say the paragraph has 5 sentences, and you cite 2 of them, but you actually used 3 of them. The 3rd sentence would be plagiarized because you didn't cite where it came from. Melding together cited and uncited sections of the original piece. So that kind of ties into kind of what we've already talked about. Providing proper citations but failing to change the structure and wording of borrowed ideas. So you put a citation in your paper, but pretty much you just literally copy and paste the whole sentence. You didn't rewrite the sentence in any way to kind of show that you are having an understanding. You just pretty much put a sentence in there to put a sentence in there. Also, inaccurately citing the source. This is going to be probably one of the bigger ones that I know I have seen is students, like, they'll use, like, for example, a citation generator, and they'll just copy and paste whatever the generator makes. And I'm going to show you that's not the way you want to do things. Also, relying heavily on other people's works and failing to bring original thought into the text. So if you just pretty much are kind of rewriting what someone else has said, that's not really what the purpose of it. The purpose is to get you to think about the subject matter, not simply just to regurgitate it. All right, now obviously we can use citations to help combat plagiarism. By now you probably know that you should cite your sources using the appropriate format, whether it's MLA, APA, etc. Now, citation, of course, is a reference to a published or unpublished source. Citations are both considered to be the in-text and the bibliographic entries. So that'd be like your works cited page. If you're using MLA, it would be your references page. If you're using APA, etc. Now, the style citation, such as MLA or APA, is often specified by either the editor or your supervisor. So that'd be, for example, if you're in a class and your teacher says, they want you to use MLA format or they want you to use APA format, the teacher would be the supervisor of that paper. All right, so the role of citations. Citations help uphold intellectual honesty, right, because it's showing that you are adhering to a rigorous set of academic standards. Citations also attribute prior unoriginal work and ideas to the correct sources. So you know, where did this idea, this thought, this research, whatever it is, come from? Who is the one behind it? Citations also allow the reader to determine independently whether reference material supports the author's argument in any claimed way. As you can see in this beautiful XKCD comic here, we have a politician giving a spiel, and then you have this one guy who is saying citation needed. Because a lot of times, people just throw facts or, fake news, whatever they want out there, meme culture, whatever. But unless you have sources to kind of back it up, you're going to want to kind of think about that. So anytime you start hearing somebody, talk about something, whether it's on the news or you see something in social media, take a second and see if you can find that information to back up that claim. Because a lot of times people just like to spout off nonsense, and nonsense is not verifiable. Now, citations also help the reader gauge the strength and the validity of the material the author has used. So let's say someone does have a citation there. The citation is great because now I can go back to see where the source is from. Okay, so they got it from here. But your sourcing is going to be a lot stronger if it was something from, let's say, AP, the Associated Press, than it was if it was something like, some guy's opinion on something, like a blog entry, right? Because, there's a certain level of validity that goes into like journalistic reporting. Not saying it's perfect, but if it's just some regular guy off the street who doesn't have any background or expertise or hasn't done any research, the strength of his argument is probably not going to be as strong than someone who maybe has done like an academic paper on a subject matter. All right, so that's going to wrap up the notes there, folks. But before we kind of end it today, I just want to kind of take a little segue over here. So I'm going to show you some citation stuff here. Obviously, I'm going to be looking at APA citation because when we do stuff in this class, we're going to be using APA citation because most computer science and related things use APA. Most science fields do. So that's the form we're going to use here. If you're not familiar with APA, that's okay. I've got several different resources up here to show you about how to use APA. So one of the first ones is, of course, you have all these different forms here. If I go back here to Google here, if you want to learn everything there is to learn about APA, you can go over here to Purdue Online Writing Lab, and they have pretty much all the APA guidelines specified in here for whether it's books, papers, websites, etc. And you can see everything about in-text citations, for example, such as authors. One thing you may not know is, a lot of times if you just do an author, it's just, their name and then the year. But multiple authors, you do both authors with an ampersand and then the year. 3 to 5 authors, you can see you list them all out and just use an ampersand. And then in subsequent citations, you just use et al. If you have 6 or more authors, you just jump right to the et al. Right? So it's very interesting to do this. And then of course, here's how you use unknown author, unknown organization. All right, and of course, you have all these other different things that you can look at. I highly recommend you check this out because this is going to be very impactful in when you create a citation. All right, obviously, now there are citation tools out here, such as a citation machine. You also have EasyBib, and you can see these are also Chegg services. And then you also have APA citation generator. So these are all Chegg services here. So any of these here are going to be ones you can use. Obviously, the one thing we want to make sure they're on is on website. So you can go ahead and just paste in your URL there. Right, there's also browser extensions available, that such as Cite This For Me. So this is, I searched her APA citation in the Chrome Web Store, and this shows up right here, Cite This For Me web citer. And you can see from this screenshot right here, pretty much what you do is you choose your format, so APA, and then it's going to generate the bibliography from it. Now, with all of these citations here, all right, the big thing that you want to remember is that these are only as good as what the website provides. In other words, they're not perfect. One last thing to note also, if you really want to get technical, you can also look onto a lot of your web stores. So for example, you could look on your phone and you can find citation generators as well there. But we're going to work on these right now since we're at a computer. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to Chrome here. Add the extension. Right. So I'm just going to hit reload page. Right. And you can see now I have Cite This For Me right up here. And so what I'm doing for the purpose of this exercise, I'm looking for big data. So here I found an article from LifeWire, and it's titled What Exactly is Big Data? You know, we've already talked about what big data is. And down here you can see we have things such as author, we have the date of the article, when it was last updated, there's some information in here, etc., etc., etc. Right? So what I want to do is I want to use this, let's say, in a paper. So in my paper, when I'm working with it, this is a nice little Word document here, I want to, of course, do several things. I'm going to go into my header here now, and I'm going to go ahead and put my name, and I'm going to put the class. Now, we're getting into more stuff with the header later on when we get into our document or unit on Word. So for now, just double click inside the header to add your information in there. By default, it puts it at Calibri size 11. I'm going to go ahead and change it to Science and Roman size 12 because that's a pretty standard approach for most things. Click outside of it, and you can see it goes back to Calibri size 11 because now we're in the document here. So I'm going to say that Science and Roman size 12. Go ahead and make line spacing double. So now it's pretty standardized. Let's go to the center here, and of course this is my document title here. So this is big data, and let's go ahead and left align again. Hit tab to start my indentation. And what is big data? I'm just going to put some quick information in here. And big data is, now let's say I want to quote this LifeWire article because he's got a nice definition right here. So I want to quote his definition. So I'm going to go ahead, of course, and just grab here all this chunk right here. Do a Control-C to copy. Go back to my document, put a quotation, and hit paste. Now, here's one of the first things I want to point out. If you just paste in, by default, it's going to keep all the formatting. So any hyperlinks, any bold, italics, whatever, you don't want that. You want it to match the formatting of your document. So right here, you'll see this little paste handle here. And I can go ahead and hover down that, and you can see there's merge formatting, and there's keep text only. Merge formatting, of course, will try to keep your pretty much your font style. So for example, Times New Roman, and maybe it's a bold. I want to, of course, keep text only because I'm not interested in changing the font styles. So keep text only is what I want. I'm going to close that off with a quote. And now I want to, of course, put in my in-text citation. So I actually have to go and generate what I want to be in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and cite this web page here. So I'm just going to go right here, copy the URL. And if I use any of these citation generators, obviously what I do is I just plug them in here. So I'm just going to plug this in. And it's going to generate a URL for me. And it says, we found this information. Great. Now, you hit final step and you come down here and you'll notice that it gave me an article title, it gave me the author, gave me the URL, but did not give me a date published. And this is one of the big things students always miss out on, is this information here. You don't necessarily need date access, right? Which says only if the source is changing over time. So if it's like a periodically updated thing, you need to do that. Otherwise, let's just use the date. So I'm going to go back to my article. I'll look right here. I have February 12th, 2018. So in my citation generator, I'm going to put 12th of February. And I'm going to put 2018. Right? That's all I need. I don't have to worry about annotations, so I'm just going to click Create. And you can see that it has created for me a citation. Let's go ahead and click on Copy. Go back to my Word document. Now I'm not going to paste this right in here. Instead, I'm going to hit Enter here. I'm going to do an Insert. I'm going to do a page break. Don't ever hit Enter because it's going to mess all your stuff up all the time. Always do this with a page break. And down here, I'm going to type references. Hit Enter. And I can paste. Now again, similar to before, it just puts the data in however it wants. I want to, this time, keep text only again. I want to take references, make it centered. And I want to make sure that my references here are hanging indents. So if you don't know how to find that, that's this little arrow icon right here. I can click right on that. Under Special here for indentation, I go to Hanging. I click OK. And it automatically formats it for me. So I don't have to worry about dragging around any of these markers up here. I can just do that and it automatically formats it for me. Right? So there's that citation right there. Now, because I'm using APA format, APA requires that you do the author followed by the year. So here, the author is, we just use the last name, so Gill. So I'm just going to type up here, Gill, comma, and the year was 2018. So now I have cited that sentence. Now, let's go ahead and use a great resource here, Google Scholar. If you're not familiar with Google Scholar is amazing. You can find a lot of good academic resources here through Google Scholar. Now, not everything is easily accessible because some of it's locked through different paywalls and stuff like that, but it does help you search through different articles. So let me just say I want to continue to search for big data. Right, and so immediately it brings up a whole bunch of stuff. And you can see you also sort of time ranges and stuff like that. But let's just say I want to look at this one right here. Big data science and its relationship to big data and data decision making. Okay, so I'm just going to click on this article here. And it takes me to this right here. So here's the abstract. Now if I want to look at the full article, it says view article, so I can click that. And I can click view full text. Because I want to be able to view the full text, because I could download it as a PDF. But see, now I have the whole article I can do. Now, of course, I can cite this with a citation generator. So, for example, I come over here to Citation Machine. I can click Create Another Citation. I could paste this in here. And sometimes the issue you run into with some of these things is they're just going to sit there and try to load. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to this time use the Cite This For Me websiter. So I'm going to use the Chrome extension here. All right, and I said APA, and you can see that it produces a web page here. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't quite have everything on here. All right, I can see 2018, I can see the website, I can see my retrieve date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little pencil icon here. And what it does, it takes me over to here. So I could paste the article in there again, because this extension is just really this website here. All right, and so if I click continue, you can see that there is quite a bit of information missing. And see, citation machine is loading. So in here, they want any additional information. If I just click complete citation right now like it is, rather than filling in the rest of this information, what you're going to end up getting is something like this. Right? Or you'll also see sometimes where it'll say NPND or something like that. All right. Or pretty much what that means is like no publish, no date. You don't want that. You want to get as much information as possible from these websites. So like here, the authors are Foster Provost and Tom Fawcett. So I want to make sure that I put in here both those authors. So we had Foster Provost and Tom Fawcett. The page title, you notice it didn't grab that, so I'm going to go over here, grab this page title, copy that. All right, publisher of the document. So on here, I don't necessarily know that, but I could find out if I look through the page. And of course, we can pull in the date and year. Right? Update the reference, and you'll see what happens when I do that. Now all of a sudden, I have a lot more information. And this website also shows me right here, how should I cite that in text? All right, not all the citation machines will show you that to you. So this one also is not having trouble loading because this is also considered sometimes, some of these are academic journals because you see it has a doi.org. So I'm going to switch this one over to journal here. Sometimes you'll have some of those, and see now it immediately showed up. Hit select. Right. It grabbed my authors, it grabbed the data, grabbed a bunch of other stuff that I might need, and even grabbed the DOI number. So now I'm going to hit create citation, and you can see it has created that citation for me. And of course, then I could copy this, put it over into my document, make sure it's down on my references page, paste that in, and again, I want to make sure I keep text only. Now, if I wanted to cite this one, I'm just going to throw a quick sentence in from here. So let's just see. Right here. Let's use this one. Companies almost every industry are focused on exploiting data for competitive advantage. So I'm just going to copy that sentence there. Go back to my thing here and say big data is important because, quote, paste, and I want to change this to keep text only, end quote. And now I'm going to cite the other authors. Now, because this one has two authors, I just want to give an example of this. I have Provost and Fawcett. Now, the thing about when you have multiple authors, it's whatever the order they appear in the article is the order that you want to enter them in. So I'm going to put Provost and Fawcett. Comma, and the year of that was 2013. Okay, so just like that, I've created a quick document here. So I have Provost and Fawcett. Oh, this is an extra space or something. Okay, Provost and Fawcett. So here's my single source. If I had, again, multiples, I'd use @L, which of course I showed you in that Purdue article. Your references page is always going to be down here at the very bottom. Use a page break to get that down there. And that's going to kind of wrap it up for today, folks. You guys are going to have a kind of a quick exercise of doing this on your own. I'm going to have you go off and look for some information. Create a quick paragraph summary, kind of like I did here, and put your sources in here. And that's going to be it for today. So until next time.